The Cold Awakening. Reality versus fantasy.
History books and movies often show the Middle Ages as a time of brave knights, beautiful castles, and romantic stories. But for the sleeper, the reality is a cold, dark, and violent nightmare. If you open your eyes in Europe in the year 1200 AD, you are not a hero. You are a ghost in a world that is obsessed with sin, death, and God. The first thing you feel is the cold. In the 21st century, you have heating and warm clothes. In 1200 AD, the cold is a physical enemy. It lives in your bones. The sky is gray and the ground is a thick, brown sea of mud and animal waste. There is no escape from the dampness. Your modern clothes are wet within minutes, and they will never be truly dry again. Then comes the smell. It is different from Egypt or Sumer. It is a smell with smoke, wet wool, rotting vegetables, and human waste that is never moved. There are no toilets. There is no soap. The people around you have not washed their bodies in months. This is the sensory reality of the Middle Ages. It is a world of mud and shadow.
The Biological Trap. The Sleeper's Plague.
As always, we must talk about your body. In this simulation, you are a biological time bomb. You carry modern viruses that are normal to you, but deadly to a medieval peasant. But in Europe, the danger to you is much higher. This is the land of the great plagues. Even before the Black Death, there is leprosy, smallpox, and tuberculosis. Your modern immune system is strong, but it has never seen a world this dirty. In the 21st century, you live in a sterile bubble. Here, every surface is covered in bacteria. If you eat the local bread, which is often full of sand and tiny insects, your stomach will fight you. If you drink the water from the village well, you are inviting a slow and painful death. In this world, medicine is just prayer and herbal tea. There are no doctors who understand germs. If you get a fever, the local barber might try to bleed you with a knife to remove the bad blood. In this simulation, your greatest mission is to stay uninjured. A simple cut that becomes infected is a death sentence. You are a man from the future, but a single microscopic bacteria from a muddy street can end your story before it begins.
The Social Prison. The Feudal System.
You walk toward a small village. You see a stone church on a hill and a wooden manor house. This is a feudal system, and it is a prison with no walls. In the 21st century, you can go anywhere you want. In 1200 AD, you belong to the land. You belong to a lord. You see the peasants working in the fields. They are called serfs. They are not slaves, but they are not free. They cannot leave the village without permission. They give half of everything they grow to the Lord. In return, the Lord promises to protect them from bandits and Vikings. It is a world of total control. When you arrive, you are a stranger. In the Middle Ages, a stranger is a threat. People do not travel. Most people die within 10 miles of where they were born. If you walk into a village wearing modern fabrics and speaking a language they don't know, they will not be curious. They will be afraid. They will think you are a spy from a rival king, or worse, a demon sent by the devil.
The Danger of the Church. The First Contact.
In the Middle Ages, the church is the center of the universe. It is more powerful than any king. You see the parish priest. He is the most important man in the village because he holds the keys to heaven and hell. If you want to survive the first day, You must go to the church. You must bow. You must look like a believer. But here's the problem. You do not know their prayers in Latin. You do not know when to stand or when to kneel. If you make a mistake, the priest will notice. In this simulation, the greatest danger is not a sword. It is the word heretic. If the priest thinks your ideas are different from the church, he can order the village to arrest you. In the 21st century, we have freedom of thought. In 1200 AD, thinking differently is a crime against God. You must learn to hide your modern mind. You must learn to be silent and invisible. You must pretend to be a simple, quiet traveler who has lost his memory.
The ale economy. Survival liquids.
You are thirsty. You see a river, but you know better. You see a bucket of water near a house, but you see a pig drinking from it. You need a safe drink. In medieval Europe, that drink is ale. Everyone drinks ale. Men, women, and even small children. It is not like modern beer. It is weak, cloudy, and full of nutrients because the water is boiled during the process. It is the only thing that won't kill you. You find a local alewife, a woman who brews the drink in her home. You have no coins. You have no silver. How do you pay? In the Middle Ages, everything is a trade. You look at your modern possessions. Maybe you have a metal zipper on your jacket or a plastic button. To them, these materials are magic. A piece of clear plastic is more valuable than a diamond because they have never seen it. You trade a small piece of your modern world for a jar of ale and a piece of hard, black bread. This is your first meal in the 13th century. It tastes like dust and smoke, but it is the taste of survival.
The psychological toll. The silent world.
As night falls, you experience something you have never felt in the 21st century. Total darkness. There are no streetlights. There is no glow from a city. When the sun goes down, the world disappears. The only light comes from a small, flickering candle or a smoky fire. The silence is heavy. You realize how much noise your modern world makes. Here, the only sounds are the wind, the rain, and the distant howling of wolves. You feel a deep, terrifying loneliness. You are 800 years away from everyone you love. You are in a world where people believe that monsters live in the forest and that the end of the world is coming tomorrow. The sleeper is not just a historian anymore. You are a prisoner of time, and the bars of your cage are made of mud, superstition, and ice.
The ladder of the cross. Rising through the church.
You have survived the first month. Your body is thinner, but your mind is waking up. In the year 1200 AD, there is only one way for a poor stranger to get power: the church. In the 21st century, you think of a church as a place for prayer. In the Middle Ages, the church is the government, the school, and the bank. It is the only place where people care about books. You find a monastery. This is a fortress of God, built with thick stone walls. You do not ask for food. You ask for work in the scriptorium. This is the room where monks copy books by hand. You show the abbot, the leader of the monks, that you can read. You do not show him your modern books. You show him that you can write letters that are perfect and straight. In a world where even some kings cannot sign their names, your ability to write makes you a treasure. But here is the sleeper strategy. You do not just copy the Bible. You begin to remember lost knowledge. You draw a simple map of the stars. You show them how to find north using a piece of magnetized iron, a compass. To the monks, this is not science. They think it is a divine sign. They think you have been sent by a saint to help them. You move from the cold mud of the village to a small, dry room inside the monastery. You have a bed. You have warm soup. You have protection. But you're walking on ice. If the bishop hears about your knowledge, he might think you are a sorcerer. In 1200 AD, the distance between a saint and a witch is very small. You must give all the credit to God. You must say, "The Holy Spirit showed me these things in a dream." You are using your 21st century brain to play a dangerous game of chess with the medieval soul.
The miracle of glass, bringing light to the dark.
One day, you see the old abbot struggling to read a holy book. His eyes are tired from age. In your world, he would just buy a pair of reading glasses. In his world, he is going blind, and he thinks it is a punishment from God. You decide to perform a miracle. You find a workshop that makes glass for the church windows. The glass is thick and dirty. You show the glassmaker how to clean the sand before melting it. You show him how to make a curved piece of clear glass. You spend weeks grinding the glass into a lens. When you give the lens to the abbot, his life changes. For the first time in 10 years, he can see the letters. He cries. He thinks you have healed his eyes with a touch. In this simulation, you have just invented spectacles 100 years early. This is your insurance policy. As long as the abbot needs you to read, he will protect you from the Inquisition. You have used basic physics to buy your safety in a world of superstition.
The steel storm, the reality of a siege.
The peace of the monastery does not last. The king is at war with a rebel lord. An army is coming toward the village. In the movies, you see beautiful knights in shining armor. In reality, you see a wall of hungry, angry men with rusted axes and heavy wooden shields. They are not here for honor. They are here for food and gold. The village people run to the castle. This is the fortress of the simulation. Inside it is crowded, dark, and smells of fear. You are trapped. The enemy army surrounds the castle. They start a siege. This is the slowest and most painful way to die in the Middle Ages. You watch the enemy build a trebuchet, a giant catapult. They are not just throwing stones. They're throwing dead cows and horses over the walls. Why? Because they know about biological warfare. Even if they don't know the name, they want to spread disease inside the castle. The smell is unbearable. The flies are everywhere. The lord of the castle is desperate. He asks for your help because he has heard of your wisdom. You look at his catapults. They are weak and have bad aim. You use your knowledge of counterweights in physics. You show them how to change the pivot point of the machine. You calculate the trajectory. Suddenly, your stones are hitting the enemy's camp with perfect accuracy. You have become a weapon of war. You watch the enemy tents burn. You hear the screams of men being crushed by stones you helped to aim. You are a historian who wants to study the past, but now you are the reason the past is bleeding. This is a psychological toll of the sleeper. To survive, you must become part of the violence you once only read about in books.
The rat and the cross. The coming of the plague.
The war ends, but a much greater enemy arrives. It is not a king, it is a flea. Rumors come from the south about a great dying. People are falling over in the streets with black lumps on their bodies. The Black Death is coming. The village is terrified. The priest tells them to whip themselves to ask God for mercy. They think the air is poisoned by the Jews or by a bad alignment of the planets. You know the truth. You know about Yersinia pestis. You know about the rats. You must make a choice. If you tell them to kill the rats and wash their hands, they might think you are a warlock. Why would water save someone from God's anger? But you cannot stay silent. You use your power in the monastery to create a quarantine. You tell the Lord to close the castle gates. You tell the monks to burn the clothes of the dead. You tell them to move the waste away from the water. You invent a holy ritual of washing. You tell the people that they must wash their hands in blessed vinegar, which is actually a primitive disinfectant, to keep the demons away. You are using their fear to save their lives. While the rest of Europe is dying, your village stays healthy. But this miracle has a price. The outside world hears that your village is safe, while everyone else is dead. They think you have made a deal with the devil. You see a crowd of people coming with torches. They don't want your help. They want to destroy the evil that kept the plague away. In the Middle Ages, surviving disaster is sometimes more dangerous than dying in it.
The printing ghost. The final legacy.
You realize that you cannot stay in this village forever. The people are starting to fear you too much. You decide to leave one final gift for the future. You do not write a book. You build a press. You use a local wine press as a model. You carve letters out of hardwood. You show a young, curious monk how to use ink and pressure to make 10 copies of a page in a minute. You have just brought the printing press to 13th century Europe. You know that this machine will destroy the power of the church one day. It will allow people to read for themselves. It will start the Renaissance. You are a ghost from the 21st century, and you have just pulled the world out of the dark ages 100 years early. You walk away from the monastery at night. You look back at the castle on the hill. It is a world of mud, blood, and stone. You are tired of the cold. You are tired of the smell of smoke. You've been a monk, a scientist, and a general. You realize that progress is not a straight line. It is a struggle against the dark. You lay down in the tall grass near a river. You are no longer afraid of the wolves. You are no longer afraid of the plague. You have left your mark on the stone of history. The simulation is ending. You close your eyes and the sound of the Middle Ages, the church bells, the clanking of armor, the chanting of monks, fade into a soft, digital hum. The sleeper is coming home. But in a small, dusty room in a monastery that no longer exists, a wooden press is waiting to change the world.
The alchemist's fire. The death of the night.
You are now a man of great mystery in the monastery. They call you a sage, a healer, and a miracle worker. But you have a secret that could destroy the world you are living in. You know the formula for gunpowder. In the year 1200 AD, a knight on a horse is the most powerful thing on earth. His armor is expensive, and his training takes a lifetime. He is the master of the battlefield. But you know that a handful of black powder and a lead ball can end the age of the knight in a single second. You find yourself in the cellar of a monastery. You have gathered the 3 ingredients: saltpeter, sulfur, and charcoal. The smell is sharp and dangerous. You know the chemistry. You know the ratios. In the 21st century, gunpowder is ancient technology. In 1200 AD, it is the fire of the gods. You spend weeks purifying the saltpeter from the walls of the stables. Says Kakurda volcanic Taslarden, Kamuru Iasi Misi Agasindanel Dediorsinas. When you finally mix them, you do not build a gun. You build a simple tube of bronze. You fill it with the powder and a stone ball. You take it to a quiet forest behind the castle. You light the fuse. The sound is like the world breaking in half. The stone ball punches a hole through a thick oak tree. In that moment, you realize you have killed the Middle Ages. If you give this to the king, he will destroy every castle. He will kill every knight. The social order of 1200 AD will vanish. This is the sleeper's dilemma. If you give them the gun, you create a path to the modern world faster. But you also create a path to more efficient slaughter. You look at the bronze tube. It is small, cold, and heavy. You realize that you are holding the end of an era in your hands. You decide to bury the tube. You decide to hide the formula. You realize that the world is not ready for the fire of the future. Some secrets are better left in the dark until the human heart is ready to handle them.
The Inquisition. The trial of logic.
But your miracles, the spectacles, the quarantine, the math, have not gone unnoticed. The bishop has sent a group of men from the Inquisition. They are wearing long black robes, and they do not smile. They have come to ask you questions. This is the moment every sleeper fears. In the Middle Ages, you cannot be smart without being holy. If you know things that others do not, they think you are talking to demons. You are taken to the cold, stone cellar of the church. They do not use physical torture yet, but the psychological torture is worse. They ask you about the stars. They ask you why you wash your hands. They ask you how you knew the plague was coming. They are looking for a mistake. They want you to say something that contradicts the Bible. In this simulation, you must use your 21st century logic to survive. You do not talk about science. You talk about the order of nature. You tell them that God created the world with laws, and you are simply studying his work. You tell them that the stars are the clock of the Creator. You use their own theology against them. The trial lasts for 3 days. You are hungry, tired, and cold. The chief inquisitor looks at you with eyes like ice. He asks, "Is the earth at the center of the world?" You know the truth. You know the earth moves around the sun. But you also know that if you say the truth, you will be burned at the stake. You are a historian, not a martyr. You bow your head and say, "The earth is where God placed man, and that is all that matters." This is the hardest lesson for a modern human. To survive the past, you must lie to the present. You must hide your truth under the shadow of their faith. They let you go, but they are watching you. You're no longer a hero in the village. You are a suspicious soul. You realize that the Middle Ages does not want to be saved by the future. It wants to be itself.
The Horizon. Mapping the unknown world.
You know that you cannot stay in the village much longer. The Inquisition will come back. You decide to use your final months to change the map of the world. You find a young sailor in a port city. He is brave, but he is afraid of the edge of the world. He thinks that if he sails too far west, he will fall into a pit of monsters. You sit with him in a smoky tavern. You take a piece of parchment. You draw a map. You do not draw the flat, square map of the 1200s. You draw a sphere. You show him the coast of Africa. You show him the path across the Atlantic. You draw the shape of the Americas. You show him the islands of the Caribbean. He looks at the map with terror and wonder. "How do you know this?" he whispers. You tell him that you are a traveler from a land that sees all things. You give him the compass you made in the monastery. You tell him that the world is much larger than the king says. You are giving him the key to the age of discovery 300 years before it starts. You realize the power of this act. If Europe finds America in the year 1250 instead of 1492, everything changes. The gold of the Aztecs and Incas will flow into a medieval world of knights and priests. It will be a total collision of civilizations. You are playing with the lives of millions of people who haven't been born yet. But you also know that the sailors of this era are more connected to the earth than the people of the future. You trust the sailor more than you trust the king. You give him a map and tell him, the horizon is not a wall, it is a door.
The medieval soul. A lesson in humility.
As your time in the simulation comes to an end, you spend your last days in a forest. You look at the peasants you once thought were primitive. You see the way they care for each other. You see their absolute faith. In the 21st century, we have everything, but we are often anxious and unhappy. In 1200 AD, they have nothing, but they have a peace that you do not understand. They do not worry about the future, because they believe the future is in the hands of God. They do not worry about success, because they believe their value is in their soul, not their bank account. You realize that your modern world has lost something very important. You have the internet, but you don't know your neighbor's name. You have medicine, but you are afraid of death. The medieval peasant has no medicine, but he is ready to die because he believes it is just a journey home. The sleeper has finally learned the truth. History is not just a list of improvements. It is a trade. We traded faith for logic. We traded the community for the individual. We traded the silence for the noise. You realize that you didn't come here to teach them. You came here to see what you lost. You find yourself praying in the old stone church, not because you have to, but because for the first time in your life, you feel the weight of the eternal.
The final awakening. The ghost leaves the castle.
The simulation is fading. The gray sky of Europe is turning into digital static. You look at your hands. They are scarred from the work in the scriptorium and the heat of the alchemist's fire. You have been a monk, a prisoner, a general, and a map maker. You have lived 1,000 lives in one medieval winter. You look at the wooden printing press you built. You look at the lenses you made for the abbot. You look at the compass in the hands of the sailor. You have left pieces of the future in the past. You have seeded the world with logic and light. But you also know that the mud will still be there tomorrow. The cold will still be there. The struggle of being human never changes. No matter what century you live in, you walk to the edge of the village. The church bells are ringing for the evening prayer. It is a sound that has stayed the same for hundreds of years. You close your eyes. The smell of wood smoke and rain is the last thing you remember. The screen of history goes black. The project is over. The sleeper is waking up in a world of blue light and soft chairs. But as you open your eyes in 2026, you feel the cold of the 13th century in your bones. You realize that you are no longer the same person. You are a man of two worlds. You are a historian who has walked the mud of the past and brought back the only thing that matters, the realization that even in the darkest ages, the human spirit is a fortress that cannot be broken.
Summary of the Project Fortress experience.
The arrival. You survived the freezing cold, the sensory shock, and the absolute power of the church. The rise. You used spectacles and a compass to become a holy sage in the monastery. You learned that knowledge is a dangerous currency. The siege. You used the physics of the future to win a medieval war, and you saw the true, bloody face of chivalry. The plague. You used modern hygiene to save a village from the Black Death, only to realize that surviving a miracle can make you an outcast. The legacy. You gave the world the printing press and the map of the horizon, changing the timeline forever before waking up.